Welcome to the Daisy Blue Fashion Variety Show. I am Nancy Blizzard, your host, and my guest today is Duane Topping from Topping Designs. Welcome, Duane.
Thank you.
And Jamie, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Thanks.
Tell me a little bit about when you started your clothing line and your style.
I retired from the Army 2012. Obviously, I had a hard time readjusting to civilian life. I spent a couple of years drinking heavily and things like that, and so I had to find a way to sort of refocus some of that negative energy into a positive, something positive. And so I came home one day and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to teach myself to sew." I've always been interested in fashion. I did patterns for a couple of months, and then Denver Fashion Week came around. This would have been spring of 2016, so spring of last year. And we went to the show, and she wore a dress that I had made. And there were some fashion bloggers there and people associated with 303 magazines. They were pretty impressed. Then we launched the fall line in October, and with that line, we were asked to show in Denver Fashion Week this last spring. I had a chance to talk with Charlie Price, who runs Denver Fashion Week for 303 magazine. And he couldn't have put it simpler. And he just says your garments have an ease to them, and I think that now that's sort of the one word that foundationally describes my style. I like to keep my line simple. I like to use fabrics that flow. I approach all of my clothing with a very strong feminist ideology, in that I want to promote not just the beauty of women. I don't want to push as far as objectification, but I want to empower, and I want to show that there is beauty and that the fashion is accessible for every woman. And I hope that in doing so, that allows some of that self-confidence and that self-worth that's been oppressed by sort of this hegemonic view of what fashion is, opens the door. Because there's so much we don't know. And I wouldn't be able to do this without her.
I tell him when something won't work for a woman, he doesn't quite have everything, because he's not a woman. So I get to tell him, no, that doesn't work, or you need to change that angle a little bit. But mostly I'm just behind the scenes. I help dress the girls, pick out the jewelry, things like that. But all the creative stuff is Duane.
It's a different world for us, coming from the military life and then jumping headfirst into the fashion world. All of the marketing and branding and dealing with, publications and publishers and production crews and makeup artists, hair, and there's just so much going on. Logistically, just to keep it moving, that I probably only spend maybe 20% of my time actually designing. And the rest of it, we have to team up on a lot of the admin stuff, especially now because our ascent, in terms of success is just explosive. Humbling. A year ago, we literally had just gone to our first fashion show, and here we
watch.
are.
When you go to create something, do you have an idea, or do you just start drawing, or how do you get started in designing?
It's always different. It's always different. Each piece is a different sort of inspiration. Sometimes I'm inspired by an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm inspired by a poem or a piece of literature, or the fall line coming up, and I was inspired by a decade in the 20s and early 1900s, and I started focusing in on that was sort of the early suffragette stuff, incorporating some of that feminist policy or politics, and then I looked at early couture houses like the House of Worth, and it was some of the detail work that was done in that time, the early 20th century. I started out just doing sketches, and then going from sketches to the actual construction. And then I got tired of sketching, and so I started draping. And so I would drape it, and then I would make it, and then I would sketch it. And sometimes I'll drape and sketch and make, and then each piece has its own
It's got its own story, process.
Yeah, each piece has its own sort of story. I find when I first entered this fashion world that, you know, a guy like me walking in, when I showed at Denver Fashion Week for the first like 3 hours, they thought I was the doorman, and I literally stood in the backstage and was checking IDs just for fun, you know. And then finally I go, no, I'm really, and I had to put my name out on the brochure, you know, seriously, it's right there. So, and I still get that, you know. So they look at me like, I don't know, you know.
How do you feel when you see your models walking down the stage and when you're clothes?
Absolutely electrifying. I always tell the models when they first walk for me is it's just a dead piece of fabric hanging on a hanger. But when they put it on, it really comes to life. It's absolutely been fortunate to work with some of the top people in the industry. Stephanie, for example.
Stephanie is definitely one of them.
She's marvelous. She's everywhere. And now she's everywhere with my name, so it's cool.
She's become one dear friend, and when he explains the family aspect of it, she and her husband have definitely encompassed that notion. So
yeah.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's funny though. I tell you, the first time we met her though, she came to the studio in scrubs. She's a nurse, you know.
Yeah.
That's her regular nurse. She and I. It was still a starstruck. I always make sure that the people that wear my clothes, it's about them. You know, a package is great with pretty wrapping, but let's be honest, you want what's inside. If you as a designer, right before they walk on a show, and you say, hey, listen, I want to see you, I want to see your personality, I want to see you make eye contact, do what you do, they light up, and then the clothes come to life. It's a duster. I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's just like a cowboy coat. But this definitely illustrates the pants. Certainly have that simplicity that I like. But the color, I think, the reflection on the charmeuse and that infinity blue really, and this hobotai silk, which is a Japanese silk, I think has that flow, that sort of ease that I like. You know, don't judge a book by its cover. So while it may be a duster, there's an elegance.
When this all comes together, when you see your creation, you just, how excited are you when you see something, all this hard work, and ta-da, there it is.
That is the payoff.
Right?
That is, you know what, this fashion industry is a roller coaster ride. I will wake up in the morning and I will say, I want to throw all of this out the door. And then there have been times I've gotten into the studio and I've taken a dress and I've thrown it down on the floor and did a little dance on it. Because I'm so mad at this stupid thing. One of the things that a lot of designers try to stay away from traditionally are tattoos. And let's be honest, I can't say too much about tattoos. I've got a couple myself. But I'm able to show, you know, Angel is one of those young women who can do high fashion with tattoos, and it's magnificent. And so I always like to put her in stuff that shows the tattoos, because that to me is important, because that's a part of who she is. That's a part of her character, and it really shines through. You know, she's really got this sort of inner strength that breaks boundaries. You know, and it's I'm proud to be a part of it. To be sure, I really am. The fabric I used, it's called a crepe. This is actually a bubble crepe. But it maintains the lightness of a silk or a charmeuse, but it's a little more structured like a cotton. So it's machine washable, and it's a little more durable. You can scrub off the stains and stuff, which is really nice. Because generally I'm not allowed to touch white fabric, because, well, I'm a biker after all. It was originally worn in our photo shoot on the 16th Street Mall by a young man named Marco. And he gave it a really neat androgynous look. It's kind of fun to be able to have constructed the garment for Marco's personality and then to change it around for Angel. You couldn't find two different spectrums of aesthetics between Marco and Angel, but yet they can wear the same garment and absolutely bring it to life. I would rather people tell me when they don't like something and why they don't like it than to just stroke my ego. And these are the things that I respect, you know, if they tell me the truth about when, because I can't get better. And I won't continue a positive trajectory if I'm not being told what doesn't work. You know, because if you tell me what doesn't work, you know, I figure that everything else is working. So
and everything's
I can
great
fix that one deal, you know. And some things, that's what I have I have Jamie Ford.
We bring, a few models with us from Denver, but when we get to the other states or the other shows, the models have been chosen. You get to look at a picture. You have the measurements, but you don't really know. A picture doesn't tell a personality, really. I mean,
Yes.
it says something, but not a lot. So when you get there and the girls try these clothes on, that's when you get a true sense of, okay, this is what you're going to wear. This is, you look good in this, or you're not comfortable in that. I can see that, so let's try you in something else. He doesn't have the luxury of doing that before the show, so they're last-minute decisions a lot of the times.
I understand you were in Baltimore Fashion Week.
We flew into Baltimore on a Tuesday. We did fittings with the local models. There was 16 of them on Thursday, and then in the hotel, and then Saturday we showed. So
It was just
it's kind of last minute stuff, and I'm literally still sewing pieces together, backstage right before they walk on the runway. So, but that's part of the fun, though. I think the production side backstage is the excitement. It's fun. It is a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun.
Yes,
but that's because it's funny because it doesn't seem like I take it seriously, but my seriousness is in my studio when I'm working. When I get backstage at a fashion show or any kind of event, that's the fun for me. That's the payoff. So I really enjoy it. We showed for Fashion Umbrella in Baltimore. We got a lot of positive response from that. And then we'll be showing here in a couple of weeks, September 9th in New York Fashion Week. That'll be our next show. And then we come back to Denver, and we're the featured designers for Denver's Unique Week of Fashion on September 25th. So we've been asked to do DC Fashion Week. We've been asked to go back to New York Fashion Week, both fall and spring next year. And then we've also been asked to do LA Fashion Week too. For New York, we'll have 18 looks that we'll rock. We'll bring 20 or 22, something in that area. And then when we get there, because, and not everybody looks good in everything. A lot of that has to do with personal style and comfort level, and you can always tell when you put something on somebody if they feel good in it, because if they don't feel good in it, then there's no point.
Yeah.
They're not just a hanger. If they don't feel good into it, you see that, you can tell. For next spring is we're going to put together a capsule collection, and basically those are going to be 10 or 12 of our core pieces that we're going to carry year round. And we're going to use those as a launching point, and hopefully this time next year we'll have our own brick and mortar. So
nice.
That we can, not only can we have our own platform, a retail space that allows us some latitude in marketing and stuff, but we're going to be able to open the door to other local designers too who struggle. Just in the year that we've been active in the Denver fashion industry, it's grown. The number of designers has increased, the number of shows and opportunities to show your garments has increased. I think one of the things that the fashion industry in Denver needs to take a little more time and thought in focusing on is the business side of it, because that's not often thought about until the end, and you really have to. It's one of the hard lessons that we've learned is the retail side of it, the business side of what we do. Really allows us to do all the other positive things that we do. And so if we neglect that, then we ultimately plateau and we fail. There's no doubt that I am proud of what I do, and I stand behind my garments, because it is an emotional ride. One morning I'll wake up and throw a garment down to the ground and do a little dance on it or something. The next moment I love it, but I'm proud of the person that's in it. I love to see them come to life. I love to see them bring that fabric to life. It's such a marvelous thing, and I like to bring the crowd in with me. I'm going to be the first fashion designer rock star, but I love to get out and I interact with the crowd and I shake hands and I bring them in, and I don't know. It's still so exciting for me. I bring a lot of energy to those shows, and I think it's all of that negative energy that I've built up over the decades in the military that now I'm able to just burst out into a positive message.
So he still has a hard time that these things are actually happening, and I get so excited because I'm proud of him. Yeah. He's just dumbfounded a lot of it. And
so surreal. When the runway is done and the designer comes out and they collect all the accolades, you know. I think sometimes they walk away with this notion of, look what I did. And I try to stay away from that, because for me it's, look what we did. Look at what we created as a group collectively. And that's all 100 plus people that are there for the show. I mean, you know, some of these shows, there's 300 models, you know, that come out. You know, so clearly I couldn't have put on a production like that by myself.
Thank you for watching the Daisy Blue Fashion Variety Show here at Denver Open Media. My guest today is Duane Topping at Topping Designs, and his wife, Jamie. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.